So I'm just going to go through academic writing first. If anybody's got any questions, then please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions on the fly. First things first, I better share my screen. Okay, so very simply, we need to have a title page, obviously. I think that's self-explanatory. Then a table of contents. The thing I find as an assessor is that often the table of contents are very poorly constructed. I just want to show you something very quickly. The table of contents really should be constructed by using what's called styles. Okay, this is a styles aspect of Word. And if I move into my document itself, you'll notice that I'm using the styles religiously within the document. Okay, if I've got subsections and if I've got subsections of subsections, we use those styles. What that means is that if I make any changes or anything to my table of contents, it's just a matter of updating the field. And I can update the table, boom. Now, there was no changes made there. So here we can see that this page here is page 3. So I'm just going to show you how we can make our first page of our document page 1, and shows you how table of contents can be updated very quickly. So rather than using a page break here, I'm going to remove that page break for the moment. And I'm going to insert. And if we have a look at insert, there's only page breaks available to us. Okay, well that's not very useful. So we go to references, and there's also nothing there. Design, oh dear, layout. Where is it? There it is. It's in layout. So they've hidden it a little bit. Obviously, for new players, it's a little bit hard. But if you're, as I just did then, if you keep looking, you'll find things. Have a play around with Word. There's a lot of nice things in Word that you can use. Now we can do page breaks here, but I want to do a section break. So I'll just make that next page section break. And we see that puts a section break next page in. Now, just going to remove that paragraph mark. Now on this page here, I can insert, and we click on page numbers. Now you can set where the page numbers goes, but better is to format it. So here we're going to format the page numbers, and I'm going to start at 1 and hit OK. All right. Now the page number doesn't exist at the moment because I haven't actually put it into the document. So I'm going to make it the bottom of the page and center. And we can see it puts page 1 there. So that's lovely. We don't want any pages in this section. Now you notice here, this says same as previous. So I need to go into this section here. I want to make this section different to the section before. So I unlink it. Now that that's unlinked, I can go up here and remove the pages from these initial sections. Okay, so my pages are starting on page 1 here. And that means I can go into my table of contents now, right click, update the field, update the table, and boom, magically we have page 1 to 2. So that's just to show you the table of contents can be updated at any time, and we should have a table of contents that reads like a little synopsis of our document. as we can see, we should have an introduction. I'm going to share this resource with you if you wish to have it. So that document there has got an introduction. We should state our purpose, audience scope, etc. That's really important. Then we have imaginative sections in the main part of our document. Build on that to a conclusion where we assert the things that we have argued for and then make recommendations. So each assessment is different. You'll have essays, you'll have reports, you'll have reflections. Each assignment is different in its format and outlook, and each assessor has different ways of doing things. So it's always good to ensure early on you do a quick template like I have here and present that to your lecturer and say, hey, how's this look? And they will give you feedback on that, I can guarantee you, and you can be quite confident that you've met their requirements. Okay, so there's two websites that are available to you here at JCUB, James Cook University, Brisbane. There's the JCUB website, and that's very, very useful for local things like our timetable, when your exams are on. The academic calendar here is very different to the academic calendar at JCU, etc., etc. So all your student association, our wellbeing team, all that information is on your JCUB website, and obviously you should use that quite regularly. I do know, however, that many of you utilise the JCU app on your phones, and that's excellent. The JCU app, when you're working as an academic, which we all are, everybody working at tertiary level or a student at tertiary level is an academic, all of us should be utilising the research tools that are provided to us by our university. Okay, so we need to go into the library website, and when we click on this link, it takes us to this site here. So there's your lovely library up in Townsville. If you get a chance to go to Townsville or Cairns, I'd strongly urge you to do so and go and have a look at the campuses up there. They're lovely campuses, and in fact that's a lovely area of the world, Townsville, Cairns, the northern areas of Queensland, so it's well worth the trip. It is very warm, so you may wish to return here and just have a holiday up there. Okay, so here's OneSearch, and now OneSearch is very, very useful when it comes to looking up for research. So for instance, today we're talking about referencing, so we can look up referencing. It doesn't take very long, and it's got 736,000 resources there. But you'll see that the very first resource here has a link to all the different standards. So some of your lecturers, some of you will be doing law subjects. You'll need to refer to your law document. Others will be looking at APA, okay. Here you see that the chat comes up as soon as you enter, so you can chat with a librarian up there in Townsville or Cairns, and so all these services are also available to you through our library. Just say no thanks at the moment. Okay, so that's referencing. If we're doing some research, and that's the first step in our process of doing academic work, obviously I might be a business student and I'm interested in business referencing. So I do that, and then I then have access to particularly business referencing. Excuse me one moment. I do apologise for that. So another thing we can do is limit it to the last few years. Very, very important. Okay. When you're writing as a student, it's extremely important to have items that are right up to date. Okay. There's much more writing going on today than there ever was before. There's more academics in the world, etc. So there should be no concerns about that. Excuse me again. I do apologise. So referencing itself can be researched, which is quite interesting. And in fact, I have found an article that I'm quite interested in around referencing, and that's called Students and Supervisors' Knowledge and Attitudes Regarding Plagiarism and Referencing. And it's very important to understand that we can avoid plagiarism very simply by ensuring that we paraphrase, and I'll talk about paraphrasing in a little moment, and we reference liberally in all our documents. I often say to students that you should have one source per 100 words for any assessment. Many students look at me daggers when I say that, but it's true. So if you've got a 2,500 word assignment, really you should have 25 different sources cited and referred to within that document. Many students think that's problematic. As you get good, and you can only develop these skills by doing them, as you get good at research, you'll be able to read a journal article in about half an hour. So yes, it's about 12 and a half hours work if you want to get 25 sources. But I would imagine a 2,500 word essay is going to be worth about 40% of your assessment. Well, that equates, always rule of thumb, 1 hour work per mark an assessment's worth. So you really should be doing 40 hours. And obviously around about a quarter of that should be in research. So I'm not 100% sure why people find reading problematic. It's definitely something you must be able to do, and you're only going to be able to get better at it by practice. So, do I enjoy reading journal articles? Absolutely. That's a very good question. Yes, my whole life is about learning. I would imagine that I read probably per week 7 or 8 journal articles. I'm not studying at the moment, but I always take the time to look into where the research is at in my varying interests. I have been a business student, I have been an education student, I have been an IT student. So you can see there's a fairly general across the board understanding there that I need to maintain. And so one way of doing that obviously is reading. I do I prefer looking at videos, to be quite honest with you. So I do a lot of looking at videos as well. But just interacting with students on a constant basis always keeps my mind active, and I'm always learning from you as well. So yeah, very good question. Thank you for that. It gave me an opportunity to share that with you. I do understand that as a second language speaker, you might find reading difficult. I do understand that. That's why we're here. So your lecturers, myself, the other staff in the Resource Centre are here to assist you in understanding and comprehending what it is that you're trying to read. I was just talking to a student prior to this session who was lamenting the fact that it takes him in the order of about 45 minutes to an hour to read a journal article. And what we came to an understanding of was that the issue was not his reading skill, but that the journal articles are written at a very high level, and often the content of those journal articles is difficult to understand. So rather than trying to comprehend something that is too difficult for one to understand, sometimes we've got to be kind to ourselves. We just don't understand it. I have the same issues. I've got to go and ask other people who are experts in the field. Rather than me trying to comprehend something I can't comprehend, I go to those people and I'll print off the area I don't understand. I'll show it to them. I'll say, what are they actually trying to say here? What does this mean? And once you do that, and you can do that with your peers, with other students, we're all varying levels of competency. If you do that, you can get a strong understanding very quickly, rather than going over and over and still not really understanding it. So don't waste your time reading. What you need to do is to read for understanding. If you don't understand, stop, just put that aside and go and read something you can actually read. And so choosing your resources is very critical, making sure that you choose resources that you understand. So very good question there. Thank you very much. Let me see if there's any. I prefer answering questions, as you can see. So the style of referencing we use here is APA, and I'll show you very quickly, very shortly, what we do there. Making a table of contents. Yeah, I didn't actually show you how to make a table of contents. It's pretty easy. Come and see me. Each person learns differently. Come and see me. I'm more than happy to help. If you don't feel in this context, if you don't feel like coming to see me face to face, by all means, we can do a Zoom meeting individually and I can show you particular skills. Just send me an email. I'll just put my details up on the screen for you. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so that's my details there. That'll be recorded, so you can come to this part of the recording. You've got my details there, and I'm sure Jackie will send you those. I can see that she's online. Okay. So here's a piece of text. Now this is very well paraphrased, even if I say so myself. And this comes from this article. So we'll show you. Okay, so looking up by title, it's much easier. You'll get a result immediately. But one of the things about looking up by title as well, and I want to make this really clear, is you get a lot of other titles that are very similar. This can really make your research effort much more efficient. If you find a title that you're really happy with, I always suggest then do a search with the title of that particular document that you're happy with, and you will find you find a lot of documents very, very similar, and so you'll be equally happy with them in the particular area that you're focused on. So today we're focused on referencing. So click on here. It takes a little bit of time. What's happening is in the back, well, it didn't take much longer, and I think that's because I've downloaded it previously. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time. What's happening is a handshake's happening in the background where JCU is asking ProCrest for the rights to present this document to me. You're paying in your fees for all these databases. So please, please use your library, lose your one search. You know, students say to me, can I use Google? Can I use Google Scholar? Why? That's my answer. When you've got one search, which is supremely better, okay? It's going to provide you valid resources immediately. And because we can do that search and reduce it to just 3 years, it ensures that the documents that we're provided with are contemporary. They're up to date and they're on the mark. You've got all these options as well down here. You can determine which discipline you want to use, etc. So really, really important that you use one search. We get so disappointed. We spend a lot of money on these databases, and we get so disappointed at the lack of use of the databases by students. It doesn't make any sense to me. On all the research I do, I feel so fortunate to have the access that I do through OneSearch, and the quality of the product that's presented to me by OneSearch is unquestionable. Okay, so screen sharing is good sometimes, not so good at others. Okay, so here's our document. I just want to show you something very quickly. Abstracts do give you an overview of the paper, and unfortunately I think that's about all most students read. It is imperative that you read the whole document, and when you do read a whole document, you'll find information that's so interesting and will be able to be paraphrased from you. So this is the document that I found. Now I'm going to move back to my paraphrased portion that is directly developed from that resource. And here I say referencing is important as it gives a reader a sense of factualness of a statement, allows them to read more on the topic, and shows that the writer is knowledgeable in their field. Okay? Now that hasn't come out of my head, and yet I'm presenting that as my work, and that's wrong. Okay, so the problem with this piece of work here is that it is not referenced. So what was the idea? The idea was referencing is important. And where did I get that idea from? I got it from this resource. Okay, so therefore I have to give due credit to this resource. Now there's all manner of ways to do citation and referencing. My favourite way may not be your favourite way, but this is my favourite way. So I'm going to show you what I do. If you're not interested in learning how to do citation and referencing, then you probably want to leave right now, because that's what I'm going to be focusing on for the next 15, 20 minutes. Nobody's leaving, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's go to the passage. So here we are. We have the passage here, and I have to make some space. I want to put a citation in. And how do I put a citation in? Well, one of the lovely things that Word has for us is a tab called references. And we see here the references, and I want to insert a citation. Well, hang on, I haven't got any citations to insert. So I have to manage my sources first. So click on Manage Sources. Now you'll see that previously, as I said, I do a bit of research, and I've found a number of things previously about other things that I researched. So these aren't of any consequence today. So I need to add a new resource, or source as they call it. Okay? All right, now to do that, I need to use my screen efficiently. So I'm going to have to open up two windows. My source, on one side, and what I'm working on the other. Okay? Now make sure you always do your writing without the source in sight. That'll ensure that you're not sort of coerced into using the author's words. You should never use the author's words. You should be creating your own view your own understanding for the particular context you're writing from your own culture and background. It's a very personal thing, writing academically. However, we must always show that we got the idea from the valid sources that are out there in the academic world. Okay, now you'll see here, one of the nice things about ProQuest and a number of the databases that JCU uses, that it gives you, I just click on citation there, it gives you the citation. Now that's really nice, and some students say to me, oh, well, I just copy and paste that and then I use the others. And I say, well, that's great, that's fine, and that's perfect. The problem with doing that is you have to remember how to keep everything in alphabetical order, number one. So your reference list must be in alphabetical order. And two, you have to ensure that you're using a consistent referencing style throughout. If you use Word, you can be sure of those two things. It's going to be done for you in the alphabetical order, and B, it's going to be a consistent style throughout because you've been using the same bibliography, what Word calls bibliography. I'll just click on bibliography there to see that we do have references under there, so just in case you were a bit concerned. So we do have, so we're going to manage the sources. Up it comes again. So I do utilize this information when I'm creating a new source. So this particular article is definitely a journal article, and I want to add authors, so I need to hit the edit key. So I hit edit, and it brings up this little box, and I'll move the box over to where my document is, okay, on the left-hand side there. If you've got multiple screens, fabulous, good on you. It's very hard to do this on a handheld, unfortunately. I did try to do it last night on handheld, it's very difficult indeed. So you probably want to resist the temptation to use your handheld and find a desktop. By the way, while I think of it, we have plenty of desktops available here on campus that are available to you. Obviously, we just ask you social distance if there's a number of you in a room, but you're most welcome to use the labs on campus to do your work, particularly coming up to the exams. I think some of you may wish to ensure that you have access to a machine that you can rely on. I would suggest that getting here early on the day of your exam and getting yourself a position would be a very good idea, and you can use the machines on campus. That's just an aside, there's nothing to do with referencing, obviously. Okay, so the first author we have is Lindahl. Now, there's multiple ways of doing this. You can copy and paste off the citation if you wish. I'm just going to type in. So we've got Lindahl, and then we've got their first initial in this case. If you've got the name, you must put the name in there, but we've only got the initial here and JF. Okay, so I add, and you see that gets added to the bottom here. Okay, so we say, okay, now we want to write the next author. There's two authors. So I put Grace, and they've only got one name or one initial, so just put the one initial, add. Okay, once we've, now you can change the position as we see here. You can select one and change the position, but we don't need to do that. So we hit OK. All right, and there those authors are put in here in the right order and in the right format. Okay, so what's the title? The title is here, and this I do copy and paste, so make sure you don't have to worry about spelling errors. Okay, and here is my, whoops, just got to make sure we select the right thing. My journal name. Okay, just be careful that it's come across properly. I've missed the R at the front, so I must add that in. The year, looking for year, there it is there, 2018. And the pages, wow, okay, the pages aren't given. I find this a lot, it's very frustrating. I find this a lot with citations. The pages aren't given. So you'll have to go back to the actual resource, have a look at the pages on it. So let's go down and we see it's page 1, okay? So we've got page 1, page 2, page 3. So it's this particular journal or article is just a 10-page journal. So it's 1 to 10. So pages 1 to 10. Okay, now go back to that citation we had before. We notice that we have some other information here that's not here. So I want to make sure you understand that the APA standard that Word use is a very general standard. This standard that's provided to you by ProQuest is a more rigorous standard, and you'll have to ask your lecturers which standard they want you to use. Personally, if you were my student, I'm quite happy for you just to use what Word provides. That'll be consistent throughout the document, and so I can't see any issue with that, but you must talk to your assessor. That's your lecturer. You might call them lecturers. I call them assessors because they're the person that determines my grade. I do all the learning. I do all the teaching for myself. They're there just to talk to me, and I sort of listen, and hopefully they answer my questions when I ask them. But they definitely determine my grade, and I have great respect for them whenever I am teaching for that reason. Okay, excuse my manners. All right, so we do have here, if you wanted to go to the full view, we have the issue is issue 3, volume is 3, sorry, issue is 1, and here's the DOI. So here's the DOI down here. So DOI in this particular case looks very similar to a URL. Okay, and we say okay. All right, so we've added that source. Have a quick look here. You can see what the reference list item's going to look like. You can see what the citation's going to look like. You can hit close. Okay, and now we want to insert that citation. Boom, done. Okay, so all very well and good. That sentence is cited. Now move on to my next sentence. Training, therefore, in referencing of both instructors and students should be made part of the curricula in all academic courses, all levels. And again, I didn't come up with this. This came from reading that article. It's a very, very good article. When I read through it, there was all manner of things they were talking about in terms of what is required, not in the conclusion, not in the abstract. And I thought, aha, so training's the idea. We need training. I then say why we need training, but the idea is training. That's where the citation should be. So I insert the citation. I already know what the citation is going to be. Boom, done. And that's what I like about it. I don't have to do all this typing stuff and make sure I do it properly. It's all done for me. Isn't that lovely? Okay. So it's a very short academic document there, but it is now an academic document. Okay. And I can say that because of these 3 things. Okay. The 3 things that make that an academic document is it's researched. And research means the resources used fully read and understood. That's what research means. Okay? It doesn't mean finding a line in some document and think, oh yeah, I like that. We're going to use that. Oh yeah. Okay? It doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to cut this out and put it in my document. That's plagiarism. Okay? Both of those are plagiarism. If you haven't read the document, you don't understand the context, you are actually performing a form of plagiarism. Very doubtful you'll get caught on that one, but the one of copying text, you will absolutely get caught on. It's not okay to just change a few words. That's not okay, and changing the order of words is absolutely not okay. You have to rewrite the idea from your concepts, from your understanding, from your background, from your culture. So I really should get an essence of you coming through the page. All right. So we've now got this. Oh, that's right. We were talking about what makes a academic document. So it's well researched. Okay. And in that case, I've got less than 100 words. One reference is fine. So I've got the one reference. It is paraphrased. Okay. Now, paraphrasing is not a difficult concept. You have to write how you use the idea, why it's used in your particular context that you're writing about, when it's used, where it's used, etc. Very different context to what the author was writing that you read. So I'm not 100% sure why people have difficulty with paraphrasing. Unfortunately, I've been paraphrasing now since 1982, and it's just second nature to me. Of 38 years of being an academic, it's just second nature. I can't recall how I learnt it, to be honest. It's just too long ago. But the essence of it is that you are writing this, and you're writing it from your context, from your belief system, and you're looking at that idea that the author has provided you through the prism of your own mind. And what comes out of your fingers on the keyboard should be something completely different to what was presented to you when reading. So I can see it. If you come and show me, I can see whether you've paraphrased, or indeed if you haven't. That's something you need to practice. It is a skill. I have no doubt about that. I was very well practiced in it, doing science way back in the 80s, where we were doing 6-7 subjects a semester. So I was very practiced at doing assessments and citation. It just becomes second nature to you so quickly when you're doing so many assignments in a short time. So in 13 weeks, we'd be expected to do 21, 22 assignments in the order of 1,000 to 3,000 word assignments. So we were doing research things where you had to write up what you'd done in your experiments, etc. So referencing became pretty second nature to me very, very quickly. These days, you're probably doing 9 assignments, I think. And of course, you're not as practiced. You're not doing as many assignments. So you're not as practiced, and you put away assignment and you think, oh yeah, I'll do that assignment in a few weeks' time. I didn't have the time to do that in my science degree. My IT degree, much similar to how education is done now, much more time sensitive, much smarter. I'm not suggesting what I did in science makes me something special. We were just all stressed and duressed and anxious, and most of us dropped out because there was just too much information all at once. So I think it's much smarter how we do things now, but it does mean that you've got to do a lot of practice outside of assessment and work with people like myself on your skills. Okay, so paraphrasing, very, very important. Citation must be part of every sentence pretty much. The only time you can get away without citation is where you're making a statement based on an argument that you've made. So every sentence has a central idea. That idea must be backed up by support. And so therefore, citation is necessary in pretty much every sentence. So if you have a sentence that's uncited, then you should be looking at that sentence and really asking yourself, where did I get that idea from? Finding the source you got the idea from and ensuring that you put a citation there for that resource. That shows you're knowledgeable. That shows you know how to be an academic. You're really going to give the assessor a sense of, hey, this bloke or this woman really knows what they're up to, really knows what they're doing. And then finally, obviously, the reference list. Well, hang on a minute, Brett, we haven't done the reference list, so that's a very good point. So let's go back to our document. Now, unfortunately, I've got limited time, so I'm not going to do any further, but what we can do here is managing sources is we can move some sources across. So I'm going to copy them across. I'm just doing this randomly. Okay, just to show you, as you can see, as they come in here into the current list, Word alphabetizes them automatically. Okay, no, maybe not. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So we go close, and always references are on a separate page. So not a section break in this case. Okay, just a page break. And we go to the new page, and we go to our references, we go to bibliography and click references, and boom, done. How exciting is that? I can tell you it's very exciting. Okay, having written a 50,000 word dialogue, being able to do that with my references was such a big thrill at the end of it. 464 of them done immediately without any concern that they were going to be right, wrong, or indifferent is very, very useful. So Word is very, very useful. As I say, you'll need to ensure that you're meeting the assessor's needs in terms of the rigour they want to a particular standard. There's no other way around it. We have to go to our guides. Now the guides are available through the library, through library guides. Okay, and we click on the how-to guides, and you'll see here we have the APA 6 and APA 7 referencing guide. Now, if you're almost at the end of your degree, I would strongly recommend APA 6. Don't worry about learning APA 7 at this stage. But if you're just starting out on your degree, then obviously you should use the new standard. Get used to that standard. You will get used to it if you're practicing. These things tend to remain in your mind. You won't have to keep going back to the guide, but when you first start, obviously, you should be utilising the guide. And remember, this is only if the assessor wishes to ensure that you use the proper standard. Okay, so if you were working with me, I'd be very happy for you to use whatever Word gives you. Okay, but not so the case for some of our lecturers, and you need to work with the assessor. Okay, so if I click on there, the APA 7 standard, we scroll down, it gives you, so it'll give you a little introduction here. You can play that on full screen, and also there's the referencing guide. We're still using the sixth edition because the seventh edition is in what we call beta mode, so BETA, and so it's not complete as yet. But if you're going to move for a few years, then obviously start using 7. Secondary referencing, don't use it. Go to the original source. Talk to your assessor about the reason why you're going so old, because you found a source which was referring to another source. You go back to the original source. You cannot assume that the source you're using has interpreted the original source appropriately. So you must go to the original source, and that's a very good time to forward to the assessor the evidence. Here's something I was reading from 2018. It refers to something from 1968. I'm going to use the 1968 version because I think that idea is really important. And there's no assessor I know that would disallow you from doing that. But you've got to ask for their approval. Okay? I hope that answers your question, Karma. The next one says, are you available to meet on campus? Absolutely. I'm here Monday to Friday, every day of the week. All through exams, I'll be on level 6. So there will be a change of venue for me, but I'll still be available to you. I'll be here all next week. I'm here generally about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I generally leave when the campus closes at 5 o'clock. Obviously, you can't get on campus till 8:30, but you know, if you give me a ring, I can come and let you in, and we can have a chat if you get here earlier. Yeah, it's always better to book an appointment, because then you can be sure that I'm here and that your time has been set aside for you. The only thing I do ask with appointments is please make sure you make them. And if you're not going to make them, let me know as soon as you know you're not going to make it. I get so frustrated. 10 minutes after an appointment, I ring somebody and they say, oh, I'm on the train, I'm late. No, well, yeah, okay, you could have told me 20 minutes ago, you know. That's all I ask. I think that's just sensible, to be honest. And yes, you can drop in, but obviously, if I'm talking to someone else or I'm not in the room, that's going to be frustrating for you. So probably it's best to make an appointment. Okay, well, I hope this was useful to you all. I thank you very much for listening. I get lots and lots of questions about referencing all the time. Can I just say this? Don't make it harder than it is. Okay? It's not difficult. It's necessary. It's not fun, but it is not difficult. Okay? So you need to do it, so just do it. Don't procrastinate, just get it done. It doesn't take very long if you get yourself focused and try to do it. I can guarantee you of that.